Welcome to DJ's Dance Floors and I Do's, the podcast that helps engaged couples like you plan an unforgettable wedding day, one beat at a time. Hello there, I'm your host, Shane Griffin, professional wedding DJ and MC with over 20 years of experience, and every week I share real advice, smart planning tips, and behind-the-booth insights to help you feel confident, organized, and ready to celebrate your big day. Congratulations! Whether you're just starting out or deep into wedding planning, you're in the right place. Thanks so much for listening today, and let's dive in. This is episode number 6, Planning the Perfect Wedding Day Timeline with your DJ. Let's start with why your timeline matters. Well, number 1, it sets the tone and the pace for the entire wedding. A clear flow helps guests stay engaged and relaxed. When everything has a rhythm to the night, it feels natural and celebratory, not rushed or awkward. Number 2, it keeps all your vendors aligned and on task. Caterers, photographers, even we as DJs, everybody needs to be on the same page. A synced-up team avoids awkward delays or missed moments. And thirdly, something to keep in mind, your professional DJ plays a huge role in executing the timeline. We as DJs, we act as MC and even crowd managers, not just the music source. We cue key moments like the first dance, cake cutting, and the last song. So it's critical, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, to hire a professional DJ that has done this hundreds of times. Keep in mind, your professional DJ plays a huge role in executing the timeline. If you like what you hear so far, give us a like, please, and be sure to subscribe. Also, check out previous episodes on this platform, too. New episodes drop every week. If you're a newly engaged couple, this podcast was built just for you. And today, we're covering planning the perfect wedding day timeline with your DJ. Okay, we've set the stage with why your timeline matters. Now, let's move on to common timeline mistakes. And here are the top 3 that I see. Number 1, packing too much into a short amount of time. Couples feel rushed and can't enjoy the moments that they planned, and even guests may feel overwhelmed or confused by constant transition. So you can tackle this up front when you're planning out your wedding ceremony and reception with your venue and your DJ. Give careful thought to the amount of time you want it to last. The last thing you want to do is put 5 hours worth of stuff into a 3-hour timeline. So just keep that in mind. A second common timeline mistake, not leaving buffer time for transitions. Hair and makeup often run late. That delay snowballs without any padding. And if speeches run long, if you get a crazy uncle that likes to droll on, you may lose valuable dance time or push the meal back later than you expected. One example comes to mind. About 5 years ago, was doing a wedding on the Carolina girl. It was actually a morning wedding, and the hair and makeup went longer than expected for the bride, and we actually waited 1 hour for her to appear. So that 1 hour was cut off, of course, within the timeline, and the party didn't last as long as they would have liked, but those are just things that you can't plan for. The third common timeline mistake that I see, skipping communication with your DJ or your planner. Surprises and changes that the DJ doesn't know about can cause awkward silences. If you have somebody in the toast lineup, for example, and you decide at the last minute that you don't want that person to do that toast, that would be something that you might want to communicate with the planner and or the DJ. Not telling your professional DJ about the flow or any changes that happen last minute means they can't properly guide the evening. So those are just a couple of common timeline mistakes that I've seen over the years. Just keep those in mind as you're planning out your wedding and building out the timeline. Thanks so much for listening today to DJ's Dance Floors and I Do's. Like and subscribe and listen to past episodes on this platform. We drop new episodes every week. We built this podcast for you, the newly engaged couple that is in the process of making entertainment decisions. And today we're covering planning the perfect wedding day timeline with your DJ. Now let's talk about the ideal timeline flow for your wedding reception. First, start with a welcoming, intentional pace. and that can be set during cocktail hour. This gives guests time to settle in, catch up, and relax. The ceremony has just occurred and we've transitioned into cocktail hour, so this is a nice place to set the tone for the night. Think about the kind of vibe that you want. Do you want a classic crooners, Rat Pack, Frank Sinatra sound, or do you want more of a newer, contemporary sound? Think Ben Rector, Jack Johnson kind of thing. And then when we get into the introduction, the grand entrance, a well-planned introduction gets everyone's energy up for what's to come. And your professional DJ that's done this hundreds of times can help prime and prep the crowd, get them maybe on their feet, get them clapping, having a good time. This is just prior to the introduction because we want the energy to be high as we introduce in the bridal party and the bride and groom. The second key point when it comes to the ideal timeline flow, structure the flow around guest attention and energy. Again, this comes down to placement of certain events as the night goes through. Think about placing speeches and toasts during dinner, near the end of dinner, when people are seated and attentive. Also be sure to time key moments, first dance, father-daughter, mother-son, the cake cutting, around natural energy transitions. And again, your professional DJ that's done this hundreds of times can certainly help make recommendations when it comes to timing these key moments. And third, leave room for spontaneous moments. A too rigid timeline that kills the energy and the flexibility, and quite frankly, from a DJ standpoint, it kind of puts the DJ in a box and almost feels rushed as we go through the night. Guests and you, the bride and groom, will remember the fun, not the precision of the timeline. Of course, we want to have a timeline and guardrails as we move through the course of the night, but you don't want it to be too tight and too rigid as the night goes on. An ideal timeline flow ensures a smooth night. And here are just a couple of pro tips to consider. I'll give you 3. Number 1, finalize your timeline with your DJ before the event happens. And this can be done through a planning call with your professional DJ. We here at Shane Griffin Entertainment, we schedule a 20 to 30-minute planning call just to go through the timeline, ask questions, talk about the music. All that is done prior to the event, so those questions don't come up while we are, quote-unquote, showtime. The DJ knows when things work and when they don't. A professional one does, so let them weigh in when you're having that planning call. We've seen what keeps a party going and what stops it cold, so be sure to take in recommendations from the DJ during that planning call to ensure a smooth night. Secondly, prioritize the anchor moments. The first dance, the father-daughter, mother-son, and last song shape that guest experience. Let those anchor moments shine by spacing them out and highlighting them properly. Your professional DJ can help advise you on best place to put those anchor moments, and then of course can introduce them properly as well. Typically what I see when it comes to these anchor moments, coming out of the introduction, introducing in the bride and groom to the reception, when that's complete, we typically go into the first dance, and then sometimes we'll do the father-daughter, mother-son. If there's a blessing, that's the place for it after that, and then we go into dinner. Another option to the timeline would be out of the introductions, doing the first dance, and then having a blessing, then dinner, and then potentially near the end of dinner, having that father-daughter dance and the mother-son dance as well. That can then transition into toasts and cake cutting. Again, when building out a timeline, there is no wrong answer. These anchor moments can go just about anywhere, but those are just a couple of ideas and places that I've seen them work really well. A professional DJ, again, can help you plan out those anchor moments. The third pro tip to consider when building out the ideal timeline flow, have a designated person on the wedding day. Choose a friend, somebody that's going to be there but may not be part of the bridal party. They can help your DJ cue people for the grand entrance, for the first dances, and even for the toasts as well. This doesn't have to be a wedding planner. If you've decided against a wedding planner, your DJ is going to be your de facto wedding planner, but it is nice to have someone there on site that the DJ can communicate with instead of having to come to the bride and groom if any questions should arise. Thanks again for listening to DJs, Dance Floors, and I Do's. This is a presentation of Shane Griffin Entertainment. Like and subscribe, and listen to past episodes here on this platform as we drop new episodes every week. Before we wrap today's episode, I'd like to walk you through a recent event where we, in teamwork with the planner, nailed the energy and the timeline. It was certainly a fun day and night for sure. Abby and Carlos got married just a couple of weeks ago. As you're listening to this in mid-August, this wedding happened back in late July, and we had a great night, but had some very particular guardrails in the timeline that we had to manage through, and with the help of the wedding planner, Marissa, we were able to execute the night flawlessly. Abby and Carlos both very happy. It started with the wedding ceremony that was scheduled to take place outside. We had some rain that came through that afternoon, but the rain went on through, and we were able to execute the ceremony outside. We had a singer that sang 2 songs and a couple of people that gave readings as well. So with the wireless handhelds on those folks and then also the lapel on the Efficient, the ceremony went flawlessly. It was beautiful outside. They had a large crowd, and it was raucous after they got married and walked down the aisle as husband and wife. As per usual, once the ceremony was over, we transitioned into cocktail hour. We had 2 locations for cocktail. One was on the front patio of the venue, and the second was on the back patio of the venue. And Abby wanted a specific sound to each location of cocktails. So with her songs and her recommendations on genres that she wanted, I was able to build out custom lists for both of those cocktail locations, and thankfully the rain held off during cocktail as well. This cocktail hour really kind of set the stage for the night. Abby and Carlos were off, of course, having their pictures taken, but their guests were enjoying the cooler than normal weather in July here in Charleston, South Carolina. Also enjoying some adult beverages and just being around each other prior to heading inside for the main part of the night. Once we got inside to the main hall, that's where the reception began, and it was a fun night for sure, but we started out with a particular vibe. Pre-dinner, we had a great introduction of the bridal party and the bride and groom, and then we went back into dinner. We had toasts and the cake cutting near the end of dinner, and with the help of Marissa, the planner, things went along very smoothly. It was a blending of 2 great families, lots of friends there as well. I think they had well over 200 people, a beautiful venue, and it turned out to be a great night. So we walked through the timeline as Abby and Carlos and I and Marissa had gone through on the planning call, and then we got into the dancing part of the night, and we danced hard for about 90 minutes or so. I remember pausing a couple of times during the night to slow things down because folks were dancing so hard, sweating, having a great time, that there needed to be somewhat of a break for the couples. We really packed a lot into the dancing part of the night, those 90 minutes, and really we packed in a lot during the course of the night. And what I liked a lot about this wedding is that Abby and Carlos really thought through their timeline. They did not try to squeeze in a lot into a short amount of time. They scheduled for 6 hours, and we were able to get in the ceremony, the cocktail, the dinner, all of the speeches, the dances, and so on, and still have about 90 minutes or so of dancing at the end of the night. So that's a perfect example of the bride and groom going in knowing how many hours they wanted to have their event, and then the planner, Marissa, and myself, Shane, working through that timeline to ensure everything timed out perfectly and that we ended with a bang with a great dancing part of the night. Hopefully that real wedding example helps you as you're starting to plan your wedding ceremony and reception. Thanks for listening to DJ's Dance Floors and I Do's. If today's episode helped you feel more confident about your wedding entertainment plans, I'd love for you to follow this podcast, leave us a review, or share it with someone that's newly engaged. Our goal is to provide free, unbiased content to help you make better entertainment decisions. DJ's Dance Floors and I Do's is a presentation of Shane Griffin Entertainment, produced by Rob Durin. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram with regular updates at Shane Griffin Entertainment and at our website, letshaneentertain.com. That's letshaneentertain.com. Tune in next week as we'll cover how to handle song requests from your guests like a pro. Until then, cheers!